Hey everyone, welcome to Technical Tuesday already, here again.
Yeah, weeks fly by, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do, but at least
when you're having fun.
Yeah, this weekend. Hopefully you guys had lots of fun this weekend. It seems like a lot of people had it off and lots of family stuff going on, so we got outside a whole ton, so that was really great. So hopefully you did too. Welcome guys. Last minute topic change again today. Deb Kennedy, our favorite, I think my favorite guest that can walk us through stuff.
No offense to our other guests at all, but you know, we love Deb. We love Deb. There we go.
Yeah, I could definitely refine how I said that. But the thing about Deb is that she takes a concept and something that's complicated, and she has this way of just breaking it down into such simplicity, and that's the beauty of it. Hey, Saskatoon, Ottawa, Surrey, New Brunswick,
Ontario, all over the place. Yeah,
awesome. Hey
sunny
guys.
Saskatoon. Well, it's kind of sunny. It was sunny for parts of it. Parts of the day today here in Edmonton. So
we have our resident from New Brunswick, Ryan and Ashley. So, Cochrane, there we go. Hey guys.
Thanks for saying
welcome.
Hi as you come on, guys. A great topic today, how to become a transaction engineer. So one of the things that we learned early on in our investing career was that so many different deals are going to fall across your plate for one reason or another, whether you're advertising for them, whether they're referred from somebody else or wherever they might come from. You see a motivated vendor. Well, now what do you do? And how do you deal with that potential opportunity? Do we let it go by the wayside, or do we do something with it? And sometimes it might not fit the exact strategy we want to do. So we try to figure out, okay, well, what strategy will this property fit?
So that's what's really cool about what Deb's going to show us today is, so she's, specializes in speaking to motivated vendors and, keeping like this influx of vendors coming into her funnel so that she can deal with them directly. And she's, really refined. We've talked to her before about, and we're going to talk a little bit today too about how to, then talk to them once you get them calling you, right? So what do you say then? But the beauty of it is that there seems to be two kind of major things happening in the market. For one, we see, Canada has been insane in the real estate market going up. And we know that especially Toronto, Vancouver markets are just, ridiculously crazy. But at the very same time as those, it's almost like that generation or that wealth divide is getting bigger, because those that are in trouble financially are really in trouble financially, and they're starting to see that, feel that those foreclosures are starting to go up. We're starting to see those things. So I'm going to talk to Deb about what she's saying with these motivated vendors, but also then she found a great deal. It's fantastic, it's beautiful, it's amazing, the numbers look great, but they didn't at first, and she had to actually do something and change the plan around to make it so that it would be interesting to her joint venture partners, so that it would be interesting as a wholesale, if she sells it out, whatever she's going to do with it. But it doesn't always come that way. So,
yes.
Hey, David, nice to see you on.
Sometimes we need to engineer these transactions. We need to figure out what strategy fits the best for a particular opportunity or a particular property. And so, and sometimes on these deals, we might be using 2, 3, 4 different strategies at once, depending on which one works the best. So when we're able to do that, we kind of have a basic understanding about, what is what when it comes to these things, then that really helps us moving forward as a real estate investor. So cool information today that we're going to get through. And thanks again for saying hi, everybody, as you're coming on from all across Canada. And
if you guys are on the replay, please let us know that as well, so we can keep up with you. You can still throw your questions in the feed, and that's okay. And we'll find you and we'll answer them. But make sure to throw these things in so that we can keep track of you. So that'd be great. All right, so without further ado, should we bring Deb on and check it out and see? She's got a rent-to-own deal that is going to be either JV'd or wholesaled, and it's from a motivated vendor. So we've got all kinds of different transactions going on here. So let's bring Deb on, and we'll talk to Deb and see what we're playing with.
How are you, Deb?
Hey, everybody. I'm good. How are you guys?
Awesome. It looks sunny where you are too.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right?
Spring is in the air. Spring is in the air.
So you've been running like mad, hey Deb?
Yeah, a busy day for sure.
Yeah, so beautiful thing that happened with this just in the last couple of days. So you signed up this property from a motivated vendor last week. And then, you know, you had an after appraised value figured out. And then just what's happened in the last couple of days with that after appraised value that you had, you know, been conservative on and figured out?
Yeah, so I always try to do my numbers conservative, but this has been crazy. So I'll just use real numbers because that's easier than imaginary. So the highest comparable in this community was 515, and that was back in February. And then literally the house across the street from this particular house just sold for 572. So now my comparables are blown out of the water.
Oh, wow.
Right.
In a good way. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah. When you get a surprise like that and you get a comparable that is significantly higher than what you were thinking, hey, that's a big win.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden, though, it's funny how all of a sudden your signed and firm offer has now become all that much more valuable to both you and to wholesalers and to your joint venture partners. So beautiful thing about getting that property locked up when you can, and getting the owners committed to you. So let's talk about those vendors. So where did you find this property, this deal? Where did you find them first off?
So this vendor actually came to me from a referral from somebody else. And I first talked to her back in 2018. And then we almost had a deal back then, and she backed out because she had one kid still in high school. And then she called again in 2019 and we almost had a deal, but then I forget what happened at that one. And then she called somewhere around the first week of March and said, hey, I just got my first demand letter from the bank. I need to do something now. So, and she actually was so stressed, she didn't even remember that we had spoken before. So she found me through my website this particular time.
Oh, no way. That's crazy, hey? So, I mean, what do we learn there? For one, it's those seeds that you plant long ago. It's that residual marketing, there's the conversion marketing and then there's awareness marketing. So, but also, I'm sure she would have remembered you if you had been a bad human, right? She would have remembered that jerk on the phone that treated her like an insignificant financial mess and made her feel about that big. So all of these things are good lessons for all of us. Treat people well, and sometimes be patient. And lots of times we go, I've been working at this for 7 months now, and I've been working and working and working. But look at that,
And just before we go on, let's step back a little bit further. You said that this was a referral. So was this a referral from another investor? Was this a referral from a homeowner or a friend or family member? Where did this referral come from in the first place?
This one was from another investor. So It's similar to a project that I did with Andrea Jones, actually. Give her a little shout out because the other investor that referred it to me lives even farther away than this house, than I do from this house.
Okay.
Yeah,
So lesson number one is when we network and when other investors get to know what it is that we do, how we can engineer a transaction, how we can come up with solutions. Some of these really good deals can tend to get referred to us. They can fall in our lap. You didn't have to advertise for that. It just kind of came to you as a referral. So I would say lesson number one right there is deals can come from places you don't even expect it, if people know what it is that you do. And so that's a good lesson right there. Okay.
All right.
Now what?
So
let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. So you got a referral. Now you ended up talking to her. So is there anything you can share with us as to when you're talking to these motivated vendors? Obviously she just got a first demand letter from a bank. That's a rough time. Often when we're talking to people, you're talking to like people that are, going through, we've talked to you before, going through divorces, maybe in an estate sale, in foreclosure, rough times in people's lives, how do you initially, talk to them so that they are willing to talk to you? It's enough that they picked up the phone sometimes, but I've done it myself where I've had people then just be like, what am I doing? I gotta go. Like, it's too emotional. So what are some things that you did with this person and your other motivated vendors that help you to create that rapport and trust?
So this particular person, like, you could hear the stress, I think, in the first sentence. And she was trying to get her kid to be, teenager to be quiet and turn this down. And you could just tell that even taking 10 minutes to talk to me was like over the top. So I just, kept my voice very calm. And then we tried to talk like just mom to mom, basically. Oh yeah, teenagers are a challenge sometimes, aren't they? So I tried to grow that connection and slow her down a little bit. I said, I'm not in a rush. Let's take our time with this. And then I just started asking gentle questions about the house. And then I kept just asking more questions and shutting up and listening.
Yeah, beautiful. And I remember you saying that from previous trainings that you've done with us, that that's a lot of what you do is, because it's such an emotional time and situation for them, you often just divert the attention from they're in this terrible situation to, let's talk about the house. And the house is easy to talk about. They know that like the back of their hand, and there's way less emotion when they have to tell you about the house. And that gives you that time to then kind of create that rapport, right?
Oh, for sure. And, once you hear that someone has been in a house for a long time, then you can start growing connections like, oh, do you have a school nearby? That must have been really fun to just walk them to school or something like that. So yeah, you can make connections with their experience up until the tragedy that they're currently in.
Oh yeah, I love it. So yeah, so it's not all about the yuck part. And I love Eileen Cote says, you met her right where she was at. And
yep.
And it really is critical. So awesome. So what obstacles was she looking at? How come she couldn't, figure herself out? And why did she need you? And thank goodness she found a good human that's going to help her out of this situation. We're going to talk about how it did help her, but what obstacles was she facing that you see commonly too?
So the family, so it is a couple, except I've only ever dealt with her. So the family is working their fanny off, trying to dig themselves out of debt. So they've both got at least 2 jobs, 1 business, and now they've got to sell the house. So they're trying to figure out how to do it quickly so that the foreclosure doesn't end up on their credit rating. They're trying to figure out how to do it quietly because they've lived in the community for 17 years. They've got tons of friends there. They don't want everybody to know what's going on. And they had a neighbor down the street or something that literally backed a truck up one evening and just left because he felt so bad about whatever his situation was. So they don't want to do that either. They want to be able to say goodbye to people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. And that's, one more reason and one more way that we can approach it is, this doesn't have to be embarrassing. This doesn't have to, like, I remember kids in our school, and it's crazy because this is 35 years later, but I remember when kids in our school lost their house and they had to move into a townhouse that was nearby, but it was a real social thing. Like, what did we know about that? We never knew what it was, but somehow it became a social stigma for these kids. So yeah, like, there's so many ways that we can help them. Not the least of which is allowing them to keep their dignity, both in when we see them and when, in their communities and the situation that they're in.
I think that's so important for sure. Yeah.
And then you develop that rapport, and you start to become somebody that they see as that can offer a solution versus somebody that is going to take their house from them or something like that, or a typical investor that is just looking for the dollars and cents. And let's be clear here. You're still looking for the dollars and cents, and to do a deal like this, it still has to make sense. But at the same time, you're doing it with the utmost good human attitude and trying to help them out of their situation as much as possible. And you know, for everybody listening, this is something that is going to become more and more prevalent as time goes on, especially with what's been happening over the last couple of years. You know, people are going to be in situations that they don't really know how to control, and so they want to save face like this one that you're talking about, and
they just want out from under that
solution,
heavy
right?
burden. You know, we've never told this before, but I'm going to say, years ago, I don't know if it was our first house. I remember that. So and we were 19 when we bought it. I don't know if we didn't know that we had to pay our taxes separately, if we thought it was included in the mortgage. But anyways, we got to be 2 years behind on property taxes. So it was less than $3,000, but we were 20 or 21 years old. And I remember a place that would pay you out pay out your taxes in order and take your house. So for $3,000, I went to this place. It was downtown Edmonton. They're still there. I drive by and I'm angry whenever I see them, because I almost, for $3,000, walked away from my first house at 21 years of age, because I didn't know how we could possibly get out of $3,000 worth of debt. And they were willing, all they were offering was to take it off my hands. And I was so stressed about it that I was almost willing to let them do that. So, you know, again, good humans, how do we help them? What do we do? So let's talk a little bit about that. So we've got a three-way transaction. We've got wins that we can be creating any and everywhere. So we've got a win for the family. We've got a win for your investors as joint venture part. Are you joint venturing this, Deb, or are you wholesaling it?
So the plan A was to joint venture or wholesale. So that's how the initial marketing went out. It looks right now like it's probably going to get wholesaled.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Lucky wholesaler. There's a lot on the table sitting there, hey?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that? Let's talk a little bit about the property, what the numbers look like, and you know, because I'm getting the impression, and I don't know because I haven't spent much time looking at the numbers on this deal, but what do the numbers look like? Maybe just give us a quick synopsis of that.
So the deal started off as an agreement for sale. So we started talking numbers for the house. So I'll just round everything because it makes math so much easier. So they owe $325 on their mortgage. They owe 15 behind payments to the bank. And then they owe about $50,000 in a line of credit and about $3,000 to the bank's lawyer. That's an estimate, but it's as close as I can get to the actual number. So basically we discovered all the numbers, and then I said, so if you could get out of this house for what you owe on it, would that be something that interests you? She said, yeah, for $393, we're good to go. So we signed the contract for what she needs to get out of her house. And by the time we got to asking and answering all the questions, I had a fantastic realtor running comparables on the side for me. So I knew that there was enough, like approximately 10% below today's market value. So there's enough room there for the investor to make money, and there's enough room there for the seller to get what she needs to get out of that house.
Okay. So let's just talk numbers for a second and run me through this, because this is the first time I'm hearing it. So roughly $393 is what she owes, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And you said that comparable across the street just sold for $570. So is that $180,000 of potential equity sitting in this property, or what needs to be done to get this property somewhere near that 570 mark?
Right. So the house across the street, so the house where I'm buying is a 4-level split. The house across the street is a bungalow. My house is about 1,900 square feet. The bungalow's about 1,600 square feet. But what the bungalow has is open concept, and a 4-level split, there's nothing I can do to make it open concept. So if that's what a buyer is looking for, I can't compete or directly compare. And then the house across the street is like renovated, perfect. Like everything is beautiful. It's got curb appeal, you name it. Like you walk in, it's all done. So this particular house, you could do like a quick and dirty reno for like 15K and actually have it in very good shape because a lot has already been done. Or you could do a bigger reno to compete with the fancy pants house across the street that's done perfectly.
Yeah. Okay, good. I just wanted to clarify that, you know, to get it to that price, because when I'm first hearing this, I'm thinking, okay, why wouldn't she just sell it or list it with a realtor, sell it for $550, let's say, and be out of it and actually put a bunch of money in the bank? So what you're saying is that in this scenario, they don't want to, or maybe don't have the time to do the renovations. I'm not sure. Why wouldn't they just go and list it normally and try to sell it? What's holding them back?
So the bank has already canceled their credit card. So in terms of even fixing the little things, so things like putting a cover on the outlets, so there's like a long honey-do list at this house, but it's all tiny little things like paint this, cover that, sand the deck and just restain it, like relatively inexpensive things that they could be doing to get more money out of it. They can't. They literally don't have that cash on hand. So they're just trying to get out of, and they don't have the time. So they're already working to pay other bills, to pay other debtors, I guess. CRA is already calling. So they're really just about get me out of this house as fast as possible, get the bills off my shoulders, get it done, basically.
And they don't have the time probably in their lives because they're working. They don't have time anymore with the banks. Like they've waited too long. So there is a point where, and I know this from when we used to get those calls because we had focused on that for a while. And, you know, there was a point where I would say to them, you know, it's not too late. Like you still have months here before, you know, anything's going to happen. Like, you know, and you can work with people and just kind of say, you don't really need me quite yet. But when you do, remember to call me because I'm the one who told you you didn't need me. I'm the one who tried to help you out here. But you don't need me. But in this case, I mean, if the letters are already flying and they're already that tired and
and some people just want out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so when you can offer a solution that solves that problem, gets a big weight off of them, I would say this is another good lesson. So maybe lesson number 2, maybe we've skipped some already, but lesson number 2 is that people will leave money on the table for an investor because they just want out, or because they don't have the time, or maybe they don't have the $10,000, $15,000 to put into it, or even the $5,000 to put into it to actually put it on the market and list it. And so you can see why, as an investor, these deals come across that people are in these situations. And at the end of the day, Deb, here you're giving them a solution that they otherwise wouldn't have, right?
Yeah, just trying to make it easier.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let's talk about, so I know when you first analyzed the numbers on this, the numbers don't work as a long-term buy and hold. So what did you have to do? So not only do they not work to get the comparable price that is across the street, and as investors, we're unemotional, we can see that, whereas homeowners might think, well, if they got it, I can get it, but we know different. So it didn't work that way, to just flip it out real quick. It doesn't work, well, I guess it can, but that's not the initial. The second thing, it doesn't work numbers wise, cash flow wise. So let's talk about that a little bit. So where was that as like a long-term typical buy and hold, which is what you put in your portfolio and what you're building, you know, your own retirement for? Why didn't it work like that? And what did you have to do to make it work?
So basically, the average, the range of rents in Okotoks for a 5-bedroom place. And for anybody who doesn't know Alberta geography, Okotoks is basically just an exurb of Calgary. So for a 5-bedroom in that area, the range is $2,200 to $2,800. So I just ran my numbers right smack in the middle, $2,500. It's certainly nowhere near the cheapest ones, and it's not done to the nines like the fanciest ones. So when I ran my numbers at $2,500, cash flow maybe $100, $200 a month. So not a particularly attractive deal. But this is a community where there's tons of families. There's tons of blended families and a lot of sports families. So 5-bedroom for a sports family with 2 separate living rooms, that has a lot of appeal. And if people are looking, like maybe they had a lousy year in 2020 for their income, or maybe their income is just down by 20%, or maybe they have a new car. So there's potential for a lot of families who want to get into a house today, but need to rent to own it. And then if you rent to own it, you pop that cash flow up to $700, $1,000, $1,200 a month, depending on how much money they have to put down in that. And then you kind of get to help people on the coming back into the house side too.
Yeah, there we go. Okay,
Super
so
cool.
here Shad was on it. He guessed it. Had to turn it into a rent to own. So the numbers look completely different. You've done your homework to make sure that there's an actual market for that property within that market, because that's another thing I've seen. Tell us the difference between a rent to own that's property first, like this one is. What does that mean? Versus tenant first, which is more common and easier, but you're going into this one property first, which has its challenges. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you're going to do to hit them, what you already are doing?
So property first, but then I got a lead on a potential tenant buyer, and I'm like, perfect. I can just do like a whole package deal. So that tenant buyer was already working with a credit coach. And so it only took a couple of days for the credit coach to be able to say, yep, they're going to be able to rebuild their credit in 3 years. I'm like, great. And then we sent them to the mortgage broker. And this particular family, it was pretty questionable whether they'd have the capacity. So my perfect little tied up in a bow deal didn't quite work with that family, but I was already, because I had talked to them and other people doing rentals in the area, I know there's the demand there. And I know there's other families like this family. So there might be some vacancy for sure. Like it can take up to 90 days when you have property first to find the right tenant buyer that really looks strong, like they'll qualify in the 3 years, because that is my intention. So there may be some vacancy related to finding the right person to put into this property, but I knew the demand was there.
Yeah. So what are you going to do about that vacancy? How do you plan for that?
So the property does need a little bit of repairs. So the first couple of weeks would be for the repairs that it needs. And then following the rent to own rules, we need to get a fair market rent appraisal. We need to get a fair market property appraisal. And then we just hustle like crazy to get someone in there. So I love the timing of this deal. If you're a family looking for a 5-bedroom, you got 4 kids, you're schlepping them around, you want to move in the summer. And this property will basically be ready to go as of June 1st. So if I can work hard and they can provide the documents we need fast, then in you go. I like the timing of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you like, is this a done deal? You have it under contract, you've removed conditions, or where is this deal sitting right now?
So we still have conditions going for at least another day. They might give me like all the way up to the weekend kind of thing because we're really close. So I had put it out for people interested in rent to own because the numbers look pretty good when your starting price is $450 for the rent to own, rather than the $400 we got it for. And then we would just appraise that 3% per year. So basically the buyout price for the tenant buyer comes quite close to $500 in 3 years. So it gets us what we want for cash flow. It gets us what we want for a return on investment. And it gets the tenant buyer into a good community, good house right now. But then this wild card came up across the street. So then I started saying, well, until someone signs on the dotted line, me as a wholesaler, I just keep going. So I sent it out to some flippers. Like, what do you think? Do your numbers work to flip it? Yeah. So that's why I was busy today, showing it to some potential flippers.
Yeah, crazy, hey? So what is your, like, if you can keep it, do you want to for an RTO, or would you prefer to wholesale it out?
So in my perfect dream world, I would always love to keep it and do it as a rent to own. I love that strategy. But at this point in time, I'm more about, okay, the seller wants and needs to get out. I didn't get into this to play games with anybody. So if I can't pull it off by myself, then I'm more than happy to assign it to someone who can close as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I was in that situation a couple times too, where their timelines were, or even like I remember one was a single mom with 5 kids, and I didn't sleep the first night that I talked to her because I was like, if I screw this up and she can't stay in her house and I can't help her, like I'm just not experienced enough. And I passed it on. So, but yeah, I have, great respect for the fact that you're like, whatever's best for them. Either way, you're going to win. So let's talk about your wins in this. Now, we talked about how they're going to win in this. And that's a legit win, guys. If you've ever been under the burden of debt, you get how great it is to be out from under that. So that's a legit win. Now, what's in it for you, and what's in it for an investor or a wholesale client of yours? Let's talk about kind of all the way through.
So for investors, basically, if you're in Calgary and area, you're looking at properties going for fair market value or above. You're potentially looking at multiple offers. So this deal has a very strong advantage that it's already 10% below today's value without repairs. And then there's no multiple offers. Like I just work very simply. Whoever signs and sends the money to the lawyers the first gets the deal. Like it's taken me some discipline to take the emotion out of it. But I've reached the point where it's just a first come, first serve basis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So
so I don't know if you want to disclose this or not, and if you're not comfortable, then just say so. But what would you be charging as a wholesaler for an assignment fee on this? So let's say I want to buy it. I say, you know what, I can get a property that's under market value. I can get a property that is great for a rent to own. And it checks off all of these boxes. And even quite frankly, if I just wanted my $100 or $200 a month cash flow and rent it to long-term tenants and, hope for some market appreciation, it could still work for that. So what if to buy that off of you, what kind of assignment fee is there?
So typically I charge 1% to 2% of the purchase price. So in Calgary, that often works out to somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 per house. If it's a home run hit, so I'm getting the house for $200 and it's going to be all bells and whistles sold for $450, I might charge a little bit more because there's more skin in the game for everybody. Those deals are rare. So I just try to keep it to a simple, rational number that still leaves lots of room for whoever needs to fix whatever in the house.
Yeah.
So you're offering this as a wholesale deal for how much?
For $5,000.
For which?
5,000.
What?
Yep.
So here's the key in this, and I actually want to stress this point a little bit, guys, because we talk all the time about how assignments and wholesaling ties in really well with joint venturing. They both work hand in hand. When you can offer to somebody, hey guys, buy this house off of me, it'll cost you $5,000 as an assignment fee. This great deal that I found, did all the work for, did the negotiations, did all of that stuff, which Deb has done here. I'm charging $5,000 for that, and it's all yours. Or we can joint venture this together, and we can buy this together as partners. And if I'm Deb, I'm saying, well, I'll take care of finding the rent-to-own clients, and I'll take care of getting that renovation done, and you just fund it for me, and I'll take care of all the work. So it's kind of, these two scenarios work so well hand in hand because you're offering two options to a potential investor.
So can we talk about the joint venture numbers then? Like, let's say someone does want a joint venture. How much do they have to have down? When does that have to be? Because with that much money on the table, that sounds like a great deal for you and for an investor, and a fantastic deal for a wholesaler. So like, I feel like you should keep more of that pie.
For a wholesale buyer, yeah.
Wholesale buyer,
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about triggers.
Okay, so for a potential joint venture partner, the seller is hoping to have conditions released tomorrow. So all it is the rest of the deposit money. So basically, I put down a small deposit of $1,000, and then the rest of the deposit is $9,000. So, you know, your traditional boring $10,000 deposit. There's nothing fancy pants here. So tomorrow is basically condition release date, but we'll see if she'll let me extend that a little bit. Because her option now, and we're working with backup options because I don't want to leave her hanging. So I have a real estate agent that knows all about this property and is basically ready to roll, pick up the reins, and try to get the deal done as fast as possible for her, as respectfully as possible for her as well. So she
backup plan that you're offering. So that's super cool.
She just doesn't. So the closing date, they want April 30th. They really don't want that foreclosure on their credit rating. As damaged as their credit rating is now, they can still recover. But she basically says it'll just sit there forever, and I don't want that, and that will wreck our business.
Oh yes. So see, the stakes are high as well.
Yeah. So there's a definite time crunch here, and you know that's a big reason why you're getting it for $393, and why an investor, as a wholesale buyer, could get it from you for $393 plus $5,000 as an assignment fee. So for $398, it's essentially costing somebody. We can do the simple math on that. That you know that's what, $80,000 down. And then get a regular 80% mortgage, and you have a property that's significantly under market value. You're helping out a seller that needs to get out right away. Deb's making a $5,000 assignment fee.
Deb needs to make more than $5,000.
Everybody kind of wins in this scenario. Like, I don't see anything wrong with
everything that Deb charge more. So the beauty of a wholesale is that generally speaking, the better the deal, the more you can charge as wholesalers. But Deb, I know you, and you're over fair. Plus, I think you're looking out for this vendor a whole lot more than most, perhaps.
Well, and we're trying to get the deal done fast. So one of the negotiating obstacles with investors is sometimes my assignment fee. So if I make it as irresistible as possible, that removes one of the obstacles or negotiating points, or however you want to look at it. And in all fairness, I've chatted with lots of people about this property. There's still a lot of fear in the investor market in Alberta. Even though we're seeing things improve, it's a spring market, et cetera, people are still very cautious. So I need to be a little bit cautious as well to get the deal done.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm not sure if you can hear it, Deb, but there's definitely a sound coming from somewhere in the background. We can hear somebody talking, and there's some beeping. I don't know if you can do anything about it. But okay. That's all.
I can go tell my husband to shush.
No.
That's hilarious. Well, you tell me that all the time. So hey.
No, Deb.
Okay, so this is a really good opportunity. There's a definite time crunch. If now you were showing it, you said you were showing it to a couple of people today. If there's somebody who happens to be watching, we have 60 some live right now, and then I'm sure that over the next day there's going to be another few hundred that end up watching this. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants in on this deal, do they have time to still get a hold of you, or is it kind of a done deal already?
No, it's not a done deal. I mean, it's papered, and they have their first choices of getting it done and closed and conditions released as fast as possible. But they're all about whatever it takes at this point. Mm-hmm. So so contact me as quickly as possible. I don't want to string them along too long. So it will be a yes, no, like it will be a deal where investors can't think about it. You kind of need to be able to say yes or no.
Yeah, there's no analysis paralysis allowed in this deal. It's either I'm in and I know I can qualify for that mortgage and I can close this by the end of April, or it doesn't work. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I did have one person that was going to joint venture or take the assignment with me. And one of their ideas was to just close with a line of credit. So there's no fiddling around with any numbers or will we or won't we and all that kind of thing. Do the renos, get the post appraisal after the renos, after it's prettier, and then they would go to get the mortgage. And if we did it as a rent to own, they would also have a 3-year lease that they could then take to their mortgage broker and say, okay, here's the appraisal, here's the lease, now what can we do?
Yeah. I see this too as an awesome opportunity for someone to learn how to do a rent to own. So, you know, to partner with you who already knows how to do it, has all the paperwork for it, can figure it all out, and, you know, be walked through their first rent to own where there's $180,000 of cushion room in case something doesn't quite go right. That's a really nice spot to be sitting in for your first kind of creative transaction. So beautiful stuff. We have Angela asked a question. Where did you find the credit repair company that you work with for your RTO tenants?
Oh, hi, Angela. I always ask that question of other people too. So this particular credit company was a referral from a gentleman who is an investor and used to be a mortgage broker.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
And generally speaking, mortgage brokers are a good place to find that, right? That they generally have those contacts for you.
I think every single one has their own favorite.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm going to guess this is Karina, so I'm just going to say hi, Karina. She's working on her property out in Camrose. But contact info, Deb, where do we find you?
Probably easiest just to go through Facebook Messenger. So there's a lot of Deb Kennedys in the world. So rather than using my picture, I have used Bernie's Mountain Dog as my Facebook picture. So when you're scrolling through 15 Deb Kennedys, that's the one you're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. And your website and stuff, Mountains Edge as well, correct? .com?
Yep, Mountains Edge Developments is our investor website, and then we have another renovation company that's just our bread and butter. So that's Mountains Edge Renovations.
Yeah. And where is this property again?
Okotoks.
Oh,
So Okotoks is an exurb of Calgary. It's just south of Calgary, about 15 minutes to the South Calgary Hospital.
Down a really like new nice highway, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And with really high incomes, their incomes in the area are, I would venture to guess among the highest in the country. So again, so many, and it's a family home with a high population of families in that area. So yeah, lots of good stuff. So, okay, so numbers wise, we've covered what's in it for the vendor, what's in it for you, and what's in it for, and I can't believe that's all that's in it for you. As an investor, so we've got the opportunity to close with a line of credit and then, you know, get your after repaired value and put a mortgage on it at that point with the new value. What other kind of scenarios do you see for this? We have the RTO version, just a flip version. What other stuff? Because I know how your brain works. What other stuff could there be?
So initially we started this deal as an agreement for sale. And as I learned more and more about the depth and breadth of the problems financially for this family, I decided it was too risky. So if CRA is already calling, I don't want to do an agreement for sale. I don't want to have to fight the CRA's lawyers. Just flat out no for me.
Learning there.
But we have potentially come full circle. I have one flipper who's maybe interested in doing agreement for sale for 3 months and trying to do a super fast flip and then get it out, get it done. So that is the latest. This deal has morphed so many times, I can't even count it now.
That's the fun stuff though. Like
so I'm just going to count this. Originally you talked about agreement for sale, and then you put in a purchase contract, negotiated a deal. And then you were thinking about a long-term buy and hold, then figured out that that's not necessarily going to work. A rent-to-own would be perfect. And then you've also decided to assign or wholesale this deal. And the person who ends up buying it might end up doing a long-term buy and hold or a rent-to-own. You might also joint venture this deal if a joint venture partner came along in the next 24 hours. So there's so many, and this is why our topic
you might
today
flip it to a realtor.
is how to become, yeah, you have a realtor as a backup option. So this is how we as investors become transaction engineers. We start figuring out what scenarios work the best in a particular situation. It's not always just cut and dry and we're just going to do the same scenario over and over. And not all scenarios are going to work. This one is particularly great as far as the numbers are concerned, as far as the property value and all of that stuff, and especially with that surprise you got about the property across the street recently. So all of these things just add up to us as investors being able to change our mind on the fly, not being stuck to one particular scenario, having multiple options, and from what I've heard in this, having multiple connections. You had connections with an investor that originally gave it to you. You created a relationship with the seller. You've found rent-to-own options, people. You also had a credit repair company there. You've been working with mortgage brokers. You've been working with a realtor. You have relationships all over the place, and that's really what it takes to put these type of deals together. And I'm sure I missed a whole bunch of other relationships that you have in this scenario, but this is what we do as investors, right? Like this isn't something I would suggest for somebody to do on the first investment they ever purchase. Stay away from something like this. It gets more complicated and the timelines are much tighter. But if you've done a few deals, you have some experience, you know you're ready to go, you know you have the ability to qualify for the mortgage, then this is a fantastic opportunity to jump on and make some money in a short period of time. So that's why we wanted to bring Deb on and show how these things happen but what it takes to get to that point. You know, this isn't your first real estate transaction, Deb. You've done several. You've done so many different strategies, and it takes the time to be able to put this stuff together, right?
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh, I would be so overwhelmed if I was just starting in this deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I referred a lot of them out just because I was like, no, I'm not going to be able to help them, and I don't want that on my head. So, so Deb, thank you for running through this deal with us. It's awesome stuff. Lots of opportunity if people are looking at Alberta. I mean, I don't know why anyone wouldn't take this deal either as a joint venture that you then flip into an RTO and they can learn that, or as a wholesale. But also, man, yeah, it's a good deal. So
to me, if I'm anywhere other than Calgary or Okotoks and I'm an investor and this is interesting to me, I'm doing it as a JV because I want Deb on my side and I want Deb to be taking care of all this stuff and finding the rent to own and doing all of that stuff, all the work that's involved. And you're willing to do that if somebody jumps on board, right, Deb?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My contractor is my husband, so he follows orders very nicely.
And but you guys also are really experienced in investment and knowing what to do and what not to do and where to save those pennies versus spend them. So that's huge as well, being investors yourself. So, okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate it.
We always love learning from you. I learn something from you every single time we have you on. So, yeah. Oh, what are the JV numbers like? Sorry, before we go real quick, what are the JV numbers like?
Right. So with the old after repaired value, we were looking at about 25% return on investment for joint venture partners. I'm going to have to completely rework all the numbers based on the, as a rent to own, based on the latest comparable across the street. But the bottom line with rent to own is the bank rules are that we have to use the appraisal on the property to start our appreciation for the rent to own. So the exact numbers wouldn't be known until that appraisal comes in. If more houses keep selling for better prices, that potentially the return on investment could continue to improve.
Yeah, and hey, 25% ROI is a heck of an ROI, significantly more than what most people are getting in their investments. And if you can get a 25% ROI and have somebody doing the work and putting this together as a transaction engineer for me, I don't know what else I would be looking for if I'm an investor. So I think it's awesome. Again, guys, if you, what I would say is if something like this interests you and you are in the position to jump on a deal like this, contact Deb and do that right away. But if you are just wanting to learn or ask questions or whatever, she's super busy with this deal right now. So don't just message her to ask questions about how does an RTO work or anything like that this time. Just stick with it if you're, just contact her if you are interested in moving forward with it.
But she's always willing to help, just maybe next week. Because she's running like mad right now for this. So yeah, thanks again. And guys, we'll see you back next week for Tactical Tuesday. Remember, if you have any things that you'd like us to, any guests or topics that you'd like us to hit, we're getting a lot of requests lately, and we've been able to get most of them in. So if there's anything in particular that you need information or clarity on, just let us know what those things are. You can message Nindin, as you see, NHIEN. You can private message her, and she'll put it on our rosters for our team meetings, and we'll talk that through and see what we can do about getting it on. So yeah, congrats, Deb, and let us know. Keep us in the loop. Can you put pictures of this property in Fearless when we get off here?
I think they already are. I think I put it up maybe a week or two ago. I can repost or something maybe.
If you're able to repost it, because there's a lot of people that are going to want to see what this property looks like.
And
so
then
if
we'll
you
link that into this feed.
That would be awesome if you can do that. You know, because you have all the time to do anything right now. So thank you again, Deb. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Have a great week, and we will see you next week for Tactical Tuesday.
Take
Cheers,
care.
everyone.